Steve, what's up, man?
How you doing, Tom?
I am living the dream. You and I today, it looks like Derek may or may not jump on. He's caught up with a couple things because that's how life happens. But I know we've got a crazy few weeks here with travel and things like that. You're going away soon again, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going on a dance cruise.
Uh-oh.
I know, I'm scared. I've never been on one of these things, but uh, you know, I just every so often I like to throw myself. I went on a yoga retreat, and
Right.
and I only did yoga 6 times in my whole life, and I went on a 7-day retreat with 6 people in this entire
Mhm.
yoga camp, and on a mountaintop in Maui, and that was fantastic. Scary at first, but it's all good.
Well, that's cool, man. Well, it's good to catch up here today. So we're going to lay out a situation here today because this can be kind of common. This is also right up your alley from your former swimming pool contractor days. And so we got a message from a guy in one of our groups in our sales academy, and he said, So I'm going to lay out the scenario here for everybody, and then I'd love for you and I to just talk about how you might handle this, because I know it's pretty common once guys start getting their heads right, they start changing the way they're approaching their sales game. They run into this issue. So it says, "Hey, I built this swimming pool equipment pad for a GC building a pool. This is the second one I've done for this GC. The first one, I didn't know my numbers and I only charged uh, $1,125. It was 1,000 in labor, 125 in miscellaneous materials. He bought all the other equipment. When I finished with that, he asked me to come over and look at another pool he's building, probably because it was such a great price, right? And that was about 4 months ago. Now I have a better grasp on my numbers and getting a 50% gross profit, like we always talk about here. I made a big mistake and never talked about my price to install either set. I just finished the install of the second pool pad and met with the GC. I got approval that he liked the work, so I brought up the numbers. I should have been closer to 6,000 if I added the correct markup of equipment, blah, 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 blah. I threw out 6K and he was not happy. He said others charged closer to 2K for what I did. And we settled on 2,500. But at one point, he seemed like he was going to throw me off the site and never work with me again. That's still a possibility. He was polite and collected, but clearly frustrated. How do I show my value when I'm 3 times everyone else's price? I feel like I'm doing something wrong to be that much higher. So, you ever run into that?
Oh man, many a time, but how I deal with it now and how I dealt with it then are two different things. So
Mm-hmm.
here's what's happening in his head and what used to happen in my head. If I'm that guy bidding the work, is I'm afraid to be totally honest with the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid because if I'm totally honest, he will throw me off the site. But now I'm trying to. I would be. Let me just tell the story. But in my fast forward 20 years when I have a pond company, and I used to charge $350 to clean a pond.
Hmm.
I did that for a couple of years, and so one winter I was bored, and I actually went through all my numbers and calculated that it cost me like I used to do them myself, so but it cost me like $250 to clean a pond. And I'm like, that's cleaning out a lot of crap for $100. That ain't
Mm-hmm.
worth it for me.
Right.
So the very next year, I raised my prices from 350 to 650. Now that's a hefty, that's a 100% jump, right? Almost. And I sent it out to all my people, contracts, and that's when I first came up with, well, then if they prepay it, I'll give them 10% back.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're not paying 650, they're paying $580 or whatever it is. So it wouldn't sound so bad to them. And like 80% of the people just sent me the money back, never
Mm-hmm.
questioned me, nothing. I never sent a letter of explanation. I simply changed the number. Well, 20% of the people called me up. I'm sorry, 10% of the people called me up. 10% of the people just dropped me.
Yeah.
But the 10% of the people that called me up, to Steve, you doubled your prices. What's up with that? And I just said, you know, I finally sat down and did the math and realized I was making no money. I said, I want to stay in business, not just for me, but I want to stay in business for you. So I understand if you don't want to go with me, but I hope you stay. And 90% of the people stayed. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying I didn't have to go, you know what? How about if this year we split the difference? And next year, I'm just telling you, it's going to go full price. And almost all those people stayed. But I let myself be vulnerable and tell them the truth. And when you do that, more times than not, you'll get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So if this guy would tell him, I screwed up, which he did, he kind of said, I screwed up. But then he's got to go, you know, I did a good job because you asked me to come back. So did you ask me to come back only because I mispriced myself? Or did you ask me to come back because I did a good job for you? So I want $6,000. You want to pay $2,500, but you also, I know you want good people on your site. You don't want any problems. You want good people. And I'd like to be that good person. So for the next one out of the block, you tell me, do you want me? And you tell me the price now that you know openly where I need to be and where you want to pay me.
Yep.
And then after that, I'm going to price it the way I got to price it to stay in business, because I want to stay in business not just for me, but for you. Is that a fair solution?
And then shut your mouth.
And then shut your mouth.
Yep.
And what will happen is he'll try to save you. Oh, no, that's okay. You know, you really did a good job. You really did do, because I wouldn't call you back. And, you know, I got $3,000 in the budget. I could do $3,000. And we'll just do $3,000. And then just call me the next time and we'll have another conversation. If I can did the job, great. If I'm way out of line, and I know I'm way out of line. And that's how I would approach it.
Yeah. You know, and I think you said it at the top, most of the time we're fearful to have an honest conversation with somebody. It's that simple. We're afraid that we'll lose the client. But here's the thing with this guy, with me, when I used to do a lot of builder work and GC work and things like that, you're actually better off not getting the job than you are spending a bunch of time jumping through hoops to make next to no money. And so you got to pick your pain here. Would you rather have the pain of doing cheap work and all that other crap that comes with it, or the pain of just going, hey, thanks for the opportunity. It was good while it lasted. Good luck to you in the future. See you later. And so what we have here is a guy who's actually waking up. He's been part of our community for a while. He's starting to learn his numbers. He's starting to look like you did that one winter that you were bored. You start doing the math. You're like, shit, I ain't making no money. And so that's what this contractor is doing, which is great. Now, I want to address some things. He said, what am I doing wrong? How do I show my value on 3 times everyone else? Blah, blah, blah. And I feel like I'm doing something wrong to be that much higher. So that's what I want to address here is it very might be true. I haven't spoken personally to this guy yet, that his numbers might be wrong. He might not truly understand what his costs are to do this work. Maybe, so that is a possibility, and he'll look into that. But where we're going to get a 50% gross profit for most of the guys that are listening to this is simply taking what the job is going to cost you, multiply it by 2, and sell it at that or better, and you'll walk away with a 50% gross profit. And that's a really easy, quick way to get your financial house in order in your business. So number one possibility, his numbers might be wrong. Number two thing that that I want people to keep in mind is that when a GC or a customer or whatever says, well, all these other guys are doing it for this price, 90% of contractors across all industries don't know their damn numbers. They have no idea what their numbers are, and they're just charging the going rate. And the going rate is the fastest way to slam your junk in the door over and over and over, all right, and not have a good day. So, guys, when you hear somebody tell you, well, 3 other guys gave me a price and it was half a year's, one of the things I was taught a million years ago by one of my first coaches was to say something to the extent of, wow, why do you think they're all so cheap? Okay. Like, don't make the assumption that you're the expensive one. You know, a lot of times people would say that to me. They'd be like, man, you're twice the price of everyone else's paint job. And I used to start apologizing for it when I knew my numbers were right. I knew what it was going to cost. Like you said, Steve, like, I want to stay in business, not just for me, but for you and my customers, because it's no fair for all my customers. If I do great work, if I stand behind it, but I can't stay in business, that's no good for them either. And so anybody who's listening to this right now, who's kind of waking up, they're starting to price more because they're getting some respect and dignity back. They're standing up for themselves. They're trying to turn their business around. You're going to get some pushback. And I think the best solution here is simply open, honest conversation. You know, Steve, I mean, you painted the picture, you know, right out of the gate when we talked about this. So I don't think it's much more complicated than that. Is you got to expect this is going to happen. Be honest about it, and it is what it is at the end of the day.
So it's funny. The second you say stay in the business, there's two types of people that stay in the business. One owner, he stays in business, and the business stays alive, but he lives like shit.
Yeah.
He and his personal family live horribly, probably worse than most of his employees. Then there's the business that stays in business and thrives, and the owner thrives. That's the difference between the $2,000 guy and the $6,000 guy.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started this pond business, the only reason why you and I are together is because I grew my pond business, my business model in a vacuum by myself, kind of based off my first company, the swimming pool company. I didn't even know how all the other pond guys did it. And so that was irrelevant to me. Had I known how they did it and ran my company like the other guys, you would have never met me. We would never have this podcast. I never would have put it on stage. I never would have made the money because I was making literally 10 times the money, real money in my pocket, than the next guy.
Yep.
And they thought, no fucking way. And that was my gift, was I just did it by myself. Out of ignorance, I didn't know better. I just thought everybody, why wouldn't you want to be a business so you thrive?
Mm-hmm.
So you thrive. And if you don't have the balls to stand up for yourself and thrive, what the hell are you doing what you're doing for? You might as well do what Tom says, go find a door and start slamming your dick in it over and over and over. That's all you're doing. That's what they're doing.
Well, speaking of slamming dicks, Derek just joined us. And I see, Derek, you just jumped on the screen. You know the scenario. You know the scenario we're talking about here, even though you're just jumping on here. We had sent it out yesterday and said we were going to talk about this here today. Yeah. So without beating this up again, let me just put you in a situation. I'm a GC. You did work for me before. It was totally underbid. You were losing your ass on it. You bid the next job for me. Okay. And now you're way more money. And I say to you, Derek, your price is way more now. All the other guys I got bids from, they're half your numbers, blah, blah, blah. How do you handle that situation? Because right now, Derek, you're a guy who's starting to wake up, charging what you're worth, making changes in your life and in your business. And the GCs, the customers, the builders, certain people around you aren't always going to think that that's a good idea. And they're going to give you some shit about it. So how do you handle that? What have you done in the past when you've done repeat work for people and your prices are now way higher? How do you approach it?
So this is taking a play out of a playbook from someone smarter than me and developing word tracks as a group as we do. So it would sound something like this. So Tom, you're the GC. So Tom, is it okay if we talk off the record?
Yeah.
So the last couple of jobs that we did together, you liked my pricing, right?
Yeah, you were right in there with everybody else, and you have a good reputation and stuff. So things went pretty smooth.
I appreciate that, and thank you for acknowledging my reputation. Well, it's funny that you say that because I realized that I was basing my reputation on what other people were doing, and I just had this amazing meeting with. Well, he's quite the guru with numbers, and we were going over this, and basically he explained why I'm broke all the time.
How are you broke? You got all this work coming in.
Yeah,
I
so
give you I give you 3 jobs a month, man.
that's the problem. I was using other people's pricing, and I didn't really know my numbers, and I realized that those last 3 jobs that you gave me,
Mm-hmm.
it was costing me money. And I know the job that we just did, it's a couple of grand, and I need to charge $6,000 on this one. Otherwise, you won't even be able to hire me because I won't even be in business.
So you're telling me that you're going to go from a couple grand or whatever you were on the last one to $6,000.
Tom and I have to, because my business is going down the drain financially. I can't even explain the problems I'm having in my family because, well, I'm not bringing home the bacon. I thought I was, but man, I've just basically just bought myself a job, and cash flow is just flowing in and flowing out. And now I realize, which is very disheartening to me, and I can only imagine how you're feeling right now. But if I don't adjust my pricing, I won't even be in business at all. So we really don't even have an option here.
All right. Well, I'm probably going to have to hire one of the other guys then, because there's no way I can go to 6 grand here.
I get it, man.
I mean,
I
I
totally
like your work and stuff. Do you think you could pay your guys less and then you could make some money or something?
It's let me ask you this. That's an interesting perspective, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. How do you think that would work if you did that with your team?
Well, I sub everything out.
Huh, that's interesting. Do you go through a lot of subs?
In certain trades we do. Some guys are just pretty unreliable. Those drywallers and painters, they're a bunch of knuckleheads. So,
well, it's interesting. Thank you that we're able to have this conversation off the record, because I can't normally have these conversations with most GCs because they just wouldn't listen to me. So let me make sure I'm just being grateful here. I wonder if those guys are not reliable because they might be in the same boat that I'm in, and they're kind of screwing themselves, and maybe their pride's getting in the way. So they don't call you back, or they don't show up because, well, they're probably having to go work for, GC, the other GC dude, because maybe, I'm not saying maybe he's paying a little more, but maybe it's work. Maybe I don't know what's going on. Maybe they're having to work 3 or 4 different GCs just to make ends meet. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, but all I know is I get a budget from my customer. I got to build this project in that. And, if you're going to 6 grand, man, I'm just not going to be able to do that. So.
No, I hear you. And
yeah.
I've realized that it just doesn't work for it. But you know what? Thank you for helping me grow in my business, and thank you for helping me realize why I've been broke. So I do appreciate that.
All right, let's jump out of role play. Steve, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, you got to have your goal is to stay in business and thrive as a person and as a family. And if you're not going to do that, you might as well just do what Derek did. I'm all for that. Just be honest. And if the GC says thanks but no thanks, then great, because all he's offering you is the same path down the same shitty road, having the same result, and you don't want that, and you can't have that. You need to go find yourself the GCs that appreciate you and your $6,000 because they want a good job more than they want to make an extra dollar on the job.
Yeah, the question our friend asked us here was, how do I show my value when I'm 3 times everybody else? This is, I'd be stupid of us to not bring up our process in the Shin Fu. And step 1 is the motive. When you truly understand somebody's motive, they may or may not realize on their own that it's worth 3 times more. It's not your job to convince them. It's your job to understand them. It's your job to paint a picture for them of how this experience could be, and blah, blah, blah. And based upon what's important to them will be the determining factor of how much they're willing to pay for a better experience, depending on the pain that they've had in the past and things like that. So guys, this isn't just hey, I'm 6 grand or I'm 10 grand. Everyone else is 5 grand. Take it or leave it. Suck it. This is a digging in. We talk here all the time about the spirit of the conversation and really slowing things down. I mean, I don't know I know, Steve, you and I noticed this, but Derek, you slowed down the conversation. You're in the South too. You guys talk a little slower down there, but anyway, but like,
we do everything slow.
You're not, you slowed it down. you know, I could tell you were in control. You weren't panicking. You poked a little and you dug a little for me to see if there was any more pain that you could kind of dig into and salvage this relationship. But at the end of the day, we're never going to prove our value without really understanding what's important to the prospect.
So let me touch on that a little bit, because this is real time stuff going on for me. I work with 3 other landscape companies. They don't want to do water features. They want us to build water features for them. And here recently, there was a wall that needs to be built, and I don't build walls. I build water features, and we do landscapes. Well, I reached out to one of the 2 people that hire me and trust me because we're in alignment together. They know my pricing. I know their pricing. So we're all in alignment. So value, how do you show your value? You just have to align yourself with the other person that has the same value that you do. So once you guys are aligned, it's not an issue. So I reached out to them. They get me numbers really quickly. I share it back with the GC. Everything's going good. Now, here's the interesting part. I have other contractors reach out to me. They're just, you know, a guy that's just getting started and trying to figure stuff out. We have a conversation in the motive, and I share with him what it's going to cost for me to come and install that water feature for them or landscape for them. And they go, my customer's never going to pay that. So it's really the customer. You have to be aligned with your customer, and you have to be aligned with other contractors in the trade that are doing what you're doing. That's really the biggest deal, because it's not an issue. If Steve needs me to come build a water feature for him for some reason, I don't have to worry about it. Steve doesn't have to worry about it, because he and I are on the same page. He prices accordingly. And if I needed to come up to Maryland and install a water feature for him and bring his team, we could do that. It's not an issue. But if someone else that was getting started in that world needed me to come in, we might not have the same value or values. So my long answer to that is, how do you show more value to someone else? Look at their values first and see if you guys are in alignment.
Well, there you go. Good shit. Steve, closing thoughts.
You got to know where you want to be and reverse engineer that. And it comes down to just 6,000 versus 2,000. If you got to you want to be in one place, let's just say you want to not live paycheck to paycheck. You want to maybe put some money away for retirement so you're not eating dog food one day, or perhaps send your kids to college. Who knows? You figure out where you want to be, reverse engineer the numbers, and stand your ground and get the life you want, because no one's going to hand it to you.
Nope.
There you go. And to our friend that sent that message in to me, man, I appreciate the fact that you are stepping up your game. You're looking at your numbers. You're fighting for your value. At the end of the day, not everybody's going to be a good fit for you anymore, especially when you start learning some of these things about how to run a profitable business. You learn really quickly who your friends are, right? When it comes to your GCs and builders and stuff like that. And I mean, listen, I had a guy back a million years ago, one of my builders that I did work for, you know, I think I was 50 grand on this house or whatever. And he told me, he's like, well, my last painter, he said, my last painter, he was $2 a square foot for the house. And I said, and what else? He says, nothing. Whatever was in the house. I said, so if there's crown and built-ins and railings and all this other crap, he was $2. And he goes, yeah. And I said, and the guy's name was Tom, the builder. I said, well, Tom, then why did you call me? Right? Because he was having all sorts of reliability issues with this guy, because this cat didn't, and the guy did beautiful work, and his team did beautiful work. They just had no idea how to price their work, and they had no idea if they were making money. That's not my problem. My problem is my business and my money and my bank account and me sleeping at night and things like that. So for our friend who sent this in, man, double check your numbers. Make sure that you know exactly what it costs you to do the project, multiply by at least 2 and sell it there. I know he's in our bridge program. Keep practicing, keep role-play this exact scenario with other members. And I mean, guys, we see that all the time. Hey, I'm going to meet this GC tomorrow. I need to role play with somebody to throw a few different scenarios at me so I could be ready. It's like you're walking into the fire before it's for real. And then once you're there for real, you've kind of already been there and you've worked through some of these scenarios. So, and then gain confidence finally for this guy that you know your numbers now, where 90% of the contractors out there in your industry don't know their numbers. So you could sleep good at night letting other people go out of business instead of you. So anyway.
Amen.
So if found any value here today, go ahead and give us a review wherever you're listening to this. Share this with another contractor. If you want to learn more about what we got going on here, head to contractorsalesacademy.com. Click the button that says Bridge and see what we're all about. And we look forward to seeing you over there. Guys, you rock. Have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you next time.
Later, boys.
Later.